Welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers here with John Cummins and Shannon Ito, joined by our brother in groove, Liam Davenport, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Doing pretty great.
Trying to dodge storms and dealing with a crazy dog, but doing good.
Yeah, it actually hasn't been too long since the last recording. It's almost like we're a weekly podcast again. I don't know when this is going to go up.
This should go up pretty quickly. I got nothing after
like
this, so. But yeah, no, we did just record last week, didn't we? Yep. This is what happens whenever you try to schedule a podcast for a month and a half, and then it finally lines up, and you're just like, "I'll take it," even if we just recorded.
Exactly. Seize that opportunity. That's what you got to do. But RetroLogic is not, in fact, just one podcast, but a whole community of retro gamers, including several podcasts about music, movies, all kinds of stuff. We have an active, friendly, and free Discord. Giveaways. Just had one today.
We did.
As a matter of fact. Did we draw a
Nope,
winner?
I will after this. People will wake up to find out.
So if you're listening to this, there's probably already been a winner. But you'll get the next one. And contests, as well as a whole family of retro podcasts, as mentioned, including the latest edition, Here Comes a New Challenger, which is a game show trivia podcast hosted by Mike of Filmlogic. So check that one out. As for a little bit of housekeeping, since this is a little bit more frequently, not as much has changed, but Filmlogic has put up a new episode on more cartoons getting the 97 treatment. I don't know why that says 94 in the notes. I'm pretty sure that's a reference to X.
Yeah, I think you were talking about Donkey Kong there for a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe. More cartoons need to get a Donkey Kong 94 style Game Boy game.
Obviously. I'd be all over that.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, give me a Rugrats video game like that. Cool.
Yeah. Sure. I think we're actually... what's next for RetroGroove?
So we did our build a band where we kind of select the players of a certain setup. So we recently did 3 MCs and a DJ. The next episode that we're finishing up now is going to be focused around CD compilations, specifically like if you ever bought something in the mail back in the day. I don't know if any of you guys had experience buying Monsters of Rock or Jock Jams or Pure Moods or any of that, but there's a really cool moment for about 10 to 15 years there where you would watch TV, especially in the evening, and you'd watch Nick at Night, and there'd just be fantastic commercials selling you amazing collections of music. So we're going to delve into the history of compilation albums.
Nice.
Are you guys going to touch on like radio station collections?
Probably do that a little bit, like the Vans Warped Tour stuff too. But I mean, there's been compilations since the 40s, so we'll do a brief overview, and then are going to dive more into like Time Life and Razor and Tie and all that kind of like the ones who really kind of genrefied it. I mean, I had like Ultimate Dance Party 97, Jock Jams, and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is great.
Do you have WoW music?
No, now that's
or
what
now,
I call music.
Now
Now
that's
is
what
the
it was.
institution. Yeah.
Though I remember whenever I lived in Jacksonville, there was because Jacksonville was a pretty good breeding ground for bands there when I was around, and the radio station would put out like a compilation of it was a mix of like pretty well-known artists and then like some up-and-coming ones.
Yeah.
I would get those CDs every year when they put them out.
Yeah, I mean, you used to leave shows and they'd hand stuff like that out too if you went to a cool concert. And actually, not to bury the lead here, but I feel like that sort of mentality is what was pervasive and kind of structural in the Tony Hawk series. Like, you'd have such a expansive amount of like new and unknown artists kind of mixed in there all around one sound, kind of curated. So I think we're going to touch on that a little bit later.
Nice. I'm going to have to listen to that one.
That's a segue.
That's right.
There you go. Yeah, but before we get to our show topic, What's been going on with your stuff, John, on Topic Retro?
So we just put out the Pokemon X and Y episode. That was a long episode, a lot longer than I was thinking it was going to be. I had the champion and a Pokemaniac on there, and we went over 2 hours.
Wow.
Pokemon, people will talk about Pokemon.
And then as far as upcoming goes, next week I'm going to try to put together a group to talk about Unicorn Overlord. If I can get that group together, then that'll happen next week. If not, I'll be doing Minish Cap probably the following week.
Ooh,
nice.
Because it's the next Zelda game in the Becoming the Hero series.
Has Minish Cap come back around? Like, I feel like it was so underrated, and then I feel like it gets talked about a little bit more now than it did.
I don't think it gets talked about much more. We're going to talk about it, though. We're going to bring light to it.
I think it helps a little bit that it's on NSO, but
yeah.
I think a lot of people ended up missing it initially, and I think it still gets overlooked a little bit, which is unfortunate because it's just as good as most other, top-down Zeldas. Like it's.
Oh yeah.
But I'll save it for the show.
I mean, I feel like whenever it came to NSO, like the announcement, everybody was kind of hyped. They were like, "Oh man, it's coming," and then I never heard anything afterwards about it. People playing it or anything.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot.
Not like whenever
that's the
Ages and Seasons.
I mean,
I'm guilty too. I was like, I want to play that.
That's the
and then
case
I didn't.
with just about all the games that everybody wants on NSO. Like, oh man, we're gonna get.
Well, again, I've observed this before. I think people just want games to be
people
on
want
them.
what they don't
They
have.
don't actually play
100%.
them.
Unfortunately, then they don't play them, right? Like,
Yeah. Who's playing GoldenEye? Is
Right.
everybody here playing GoldenEye? You're not playing GoldenEye.
You know, and
I feel like
Golden
though when
Sun was
Ages and
same
Seasons hit though,
Yeah.
people were playing it on the Discord. Like I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised.
What, GoldenEye?
No, whenever Ages and Seasons
Oh,
hit,
yeah.
the Game Boy
Ages
Color
and Seasons
games.
are good. Yeah.
But I wonder how many people
But-
played them completely through. Same
Yeah, they
thing.
might have tested them out.
Everybody was so excited for Golden Sun, and I heard people talking about it for like a few days, and then it just kind of
Golden
and I was
Golden
guilty on
Sun
that
is
one.
like that's the perfect game for like rose tinted glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone remembers it being so good, but at the same time, it was like one of the only RPGs that we got early on in the Game Boy Advance. Like that was
Until
Nintendo.
you got every Final Fantasy.
Well, yeah, until it was become a port house.
Yeah, you got a lot of ports.
Yeah.
But like this was a brand new like Nintendo RPG that and everyone always remembers it as this like really awesome game. But when you go back to it, it's really narrative heavy, like, and it's very confusing. There's a lot of backtracking and like getting lost in places. Like,
Oh, sounds fun.
it's not as like straightforward
Yeah,
as a
that's
lot
fair.
of RPGs.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Not that it's bad.
No.
I'm not going to say that it's bad, but I definitely think out of like all the older RPGs that I could think of, this one needs like a remake the most if people are going to enjoy it to its fullest.
Yeah.
Like Chrono Trigger, just bring me that game. It doesn't need to be touched. Like just leave it alone.
Right.
I'll play it. This game, not so much. I want some quality of life stuff.
yep.
Also, I did put out a couple articles on Substack this week. So if you guys if anyone wants to go check those out, those are available.
Awesome. Shannon, how's
Star Wars
Dads?
Yes.
You got all the episodes planned already?
So we just recorded this week an episode 0.5 just because scheduling just the two of us actually ended up being pretty difficult. Some things came up on both sides, and then we were all set, definitely going to happen, and then he got hit with storms that just killed his power. So that kind of took the wind out of the sails for that. But we wanted to still get something out. So the next day we found a little bit of time at least. So we recorded for about a half-hour episode and decided that was going to be 0.5 just so that we got something out there. But episode 1, hopefully very soon.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about people not playing games. What are some games that we've actually been playing this past week?
Liam,
you're the guest.
Throwing you on the spot.
Anything you've been playing? You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, my gaming time's a little all over the place, but actually, so my daughter recently turned 9, and I've never really indoctrinated her into like sticking a controller in her hand. She sees me play games, and she's been in the basement, but she's kind of discovered it in the past couple months herself. And now I'm in this space where she's playing her Switch, like my old Switch, and asking me for help and recommendations, guys. Like getting asked for recs from your kid. My heart swelled. I was like, let's go downstairs. I'll show you everything. But trying not to be overwhelming.
One day this will all be yours.
That's right.
Yeah, one day this will all be on eBay. So she is into, she did Disney Illusion Island as her gateway drug, but wanted a 3D platformer. So she played Kirby's Forgotten Land. So I played both of those with her, plus Dreamlight Valley we plug away at, which is super fun. But she finished Kirby other than the last boss. I did that for her. And wanted a rec for another game that was kind of like Kirby. She's been playing DC Superhero Girls, but I didn't realize that De Blob 2 got re-released on the Switch. I loved both of those games on the Wii. And when I saw that was on the Switch, I immediately snagged it for her, because that's just like, it's a little hand-holdy for me. It's not that challenging. It's pretty forgiving. It's super fun, and the satisfying, like, spreading paint all over the sort of gray of it all it feels so good. So been messing around with the Blob. I finally finished up Xenoblade 3 and needed something different. It was very good, but it's
heavy.
Palate cleanser.
It's a heavy game.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. It's just so much. I couldn't dive into something else like that. So I played Inscription instead and really messed with my head. And I don't know if you guys have played that game, but it's pretty twisted. But so
I seen you hop on that the other day.
Yeah, it's getting it, and I'm not a card gamer. I played Magic back in the day, and I have some Pokemon cards, but I'm not much of a card game person in general.
I've heard that game doesn't stay a card game though. So
it's always a card game. It's just, it keeps changing what kind of game it is, but it's still at its
still
basis
always
a card game.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's like the Blair Witch of card games. It's so weird. It's super super weird.
I don't think I've heard anybody describe it that way.
It's dude. There's found footage. It's bizarre. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that so I don't spoil anything. And then the last thing is really weird, but like in the past couple of months, I started playing Pikmin Bloom again, guys. I don't know what's happening with me. I'm trying to get like outside.
You revived a dead one.
Yeah, like
that's good.
Is that retro now? It's been out a couple of years.
Well, they're just glad somebody's playing it. They're probably like, "Oh my gosh, we got somebody playing again, guys."
But Shannon, here's the weird thing. So, like, because of the nature of Pikmin Bloom, you can see other people are playing because there's little trails. Except that in my neighborhood, everybody knows where I live if you play Pikmin Bloom because the flowers are at my house. And I know where the other guy in my neighborhood who plays Pikmin Bloom is because the other flowers are at his house. So it is a little creepy, but there's like one other dude in my neighborhood that plays. But I work in Manhattan, and Manhattan is just alight with flowers. So it's
that's great.
Yeah, it's fun to walk around and like I like going for walks and in the woods and stuff, and then to like look down and see that I like sprouted a thing is it's a rewarding pedometer. So
or it's one person in Manhattan that's just really going to town.
Right.
Dude, it's pretty cool to see, I gotta say. Yeah. But yeah, that's my gaming at the moment.
Nice. Sam, are you next on the list?
Sure, I'll go next. I have been plotting through the East series, actually. Matter of fact, I just finished East Book 2 on Sunday, and I thought, you know what? I'm really curious about 3, because I'd had 3 for a while. I held off on playing it until I beat 2, because I'd already beat 1 by the time I got it. So this is the original release of Book 3. There's like a remake that came out on Vita and got ported to Windows. I think it might even be on Switch by now. But this is the original East 3 Wonders from East for the Super Nintendo, which is a very different kind of game. After playing the first 2, it's a lot more similar to them than you might think, but it does shift from a top-down view to a side view. So it kind of feels like the Zelda 2 of the East series, pretty much, in that respect. But it is, you don't have bump combat anymore, but you do have a very short-range sword swing. So it almost still feels like bump combat. Definitely some frustrating hitboxes at places, definitely some grindiness, but after playing the other 2 games, you kind of like know to expect that. And it was short enough that it was still enjoyable. So yeah, that's 3 games down. So now I'm like almost a third of the way through the series. There's only like 10 of them.
You gonna do them all?
And a bunch of remakes. Okay, so East 5 is basically inaccessible. It never left Japan. East 4 also never left Japan, but they remade it, and there were also 2 different.
I was going to say, yeah, there's multiple versions of East 4.
Then they remade it, and it's like, no, this is the real East 4 now. So that's a whole thing.
I heard it explained.
Once you get to 6, it's pretty easy.
I heard it explained that
because I think all of those are on Steam.
They had 2 different companies port East 4 to 2 different consoles. And when they did, they didn't.
But
they
then
never talked.
Like
they didn't
games.
Talk to each other. They just
they
both
like had the same basic outline, and that was
they were
it.
just given a like, this is what the plot of the game's going to be. Just run with it type deal. So they're just 2 totally different games.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, it's weird. It's I don't know. It's one of those. I'm just sort of curious with the path that this series has charted. And because it had always been kind of under my radar too, but it's been around forever. So yeah, I'm still curious once I get to like East 7 and on the more modern games, if they'll sit well with me. But I didn't expect the first game to sit well with me, yet it did. So yeah, it's worth discussing more at some point, I think. So we'll probably have to do an East episode at some point.
We need to, yeah.
Once I've got through that.
I guess I'm next.
You're up.
Sure. Volunteered.
So I started Shining Force, which is the Retro Rewind game this month. I think I'm in the 4th battle or 5th battle. No, wait. Take that back. I'm in the 7th battle. So that's the 3rd battle. Each chapter has 4 battles. So I'm in the 3rd battle and the 2nd chapter. This game is actually really fun for how old it is. There is definitely some the menus can be a little much to grasp at first. There's a lot of extra clicking or button pressing to get to certain parts of the menu, and then reaffirming that that's what you want to do. And I think that's going to be the part that kind of maybe gets people out of this. But as far as the gameplay goes, it's fun. Like it's just a tactics game. It reminds me of like old Fire Emblem. But maybe not as complicated as old Fire Emblem. There's not the
weapon triangle.
Not the weapon triangle. There's none of that stuff to remember. You basically just have to watch your health and stuff, because people can get slammed pretty quick if you don't have a healer nearby. You do get a lot of people in your group though too. Like I think I've already recruited like maybe 8 or 9 people.
Is there permadeath?
No, you can revive your guys.
Oh, I need to play this game. This sounds good.
yeah, there's healers, there's sword masters, there's guys that use there's archers, there's mages, it's kind of like the classic classes. You can revive, like I said, you can revive them. It just costs a little bit of gold. And then there's what I like the most about it is there's not a whole lot of hassle with weapons so far. Like you have the weapons, you just level up and you get stronger that way. Which, like I said, it's very simple. This is when you can sit down and knock out a few battles in like an hour. You probably do a chapter a day and get through the game in probably like a week and a half or so.
But is it a dating sim?
No.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Wow.
No dating.
All right. All right.
And the translation is actually pretty strong. Like it's pretty good for that time period. It was always hit or miss back then. What you were going to get as far as translation goes. And then the second thing, which is kind of taking me away from Shining Force, is I don't know. I was just kind of looking for something different to play on Switch that's newer. And I've still been hearing a lot of people talk about Dave the Diver. And I had already downloaded the demo. So I fired up the demo and played through that. And then I bought the game, and I've been doing pretty much nothing but playing that since I bought the game. It's a lot of fun. I've heard a lot of people say that it doesn't really grab you very well, but I'm really enjoying it. There's enough different stuff going on that it keeps it interesting, but it's also got a good loop to where you're not, it's not always something different.
So how does this whole Godzilla DLC work for it? Because isn't there like isn't there like a Godzilla?
So,
yeah.
So I haven't I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet. I don't know if you can actually play the DLCs until you've played through the main game or not. I haven't looked into it that far. But in the preview, what I saw was that he is like fighting a giant lobster or something.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense.
So
as you do.
Yeah.
There's other giant creatures in the game. Like you fight them as bosses.
All right.
So I don't know if you fight Godzilla or maybe you help him fight the crab or lobster thing. I don't know.
I think I saw a giant lobster in that Beastie Boys video.
That's right.
That was pretty cool.
I love the diving part of it. The sushi part's okay. You don't really do a whole lot of stuff with that. You kind of set the menu up and then you serve. It's very basic. You do pretty much the same stuff over and over again. But the diving part and doing all the quests, like finding the fish you're supposed to find to serve the specific types of sushi, or finding objects or helping people out. Those types of things are fun. It's a good loop, but so far it's good. It's holding my attention 100% right now. I think I'm in chapter 3. So I think I've got a little bit more to go to get halfway done, and then maybe I'm out all next week on travel. So I might try to wrap it up next week so I can start getting back into Shining Force. I need to finish that too. And I also want to play the Godzilla DLC.
Well, and I played through Dredge a little while back, and I heard there was a crossover with Dredge.
There is a Dredge DLC also.
Yeah, Dredge was rad.
Dredge was good. I played it too.
I like Lovecraftian stuff.
These are two totally different games, but I can see where they could tie them together in some form, because in Dave the Diver, you're in a pool of the ocean that is kind of off of everything else, and every time you go into it, it changes. Like that's how they sell it, the story wise, is that it's like some kind of almost portal. Like a lagoon. Yeah, it's like a portal. Every time you go in it, it's different. Cool. Which makes it's procedurally generated in that way as well. But this is not a podcast on Dave the Diver, so we will go to Shannon for what he's been playing.
It hasn't been that long, but still have that Unicorn Overlord on there. I am making progress. I am continuing, and I am still very much enjoying it. I put in a little more time again into some Knights of the Old Republic, version that's on Switch, and I'm probably a couple hours in now. I'm on the first planet still though, and just kind of exploring around and just kind of like having fun battling whatever I find.
Had you played that back in the day, Shannon?
Yeah, I played it. So I played it when it first came to PC. So,
and beat it?
Yes. So I already know all the story points and everything. But I thought I'd kind of play it. We decided we'd kind of talk a little bit about it on Star Wars Dads. So,
yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, it's been a long time. So yeah, I have it on actual PC, like pre-Steam days, the actual
the big box.
Yeah, and doing it that way. So, but I do enjoy the lore in the game. It definitely shows its age a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if we ever actually do get a remake of it that's been in development for a million years, it feels like. And it may or may not actually be in development at any time. Depends on who you talk to.
It's not been in development as long as Metroid Prime 4.
That's true.
So I think you're all right.
That's
Is
true.
that right? Yikes.
But of course, we assume that actually is coming out. We've never actually, we can't seem to get confirmation of whether or not they're still actively working on the Knights of the Old Republic remake. Some days they're like,
hush.
They're like, nope, it's not happening anymore. And then like a day or two later, somebody else will be like, oh, actually it is. It really is. And it's well in development. No, they haven't really started development. I don't know. Can't keep up. Anyway, it could use a remake. I think that the story is really good though. So if you are into Star Wars and you're into, I guess technically the lore doesn't exist. It would be a Legends thing now, but it's a lot of fun. And
I'm not as interested in that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they make a reference to Revan on an episode of Rebels?
I can't remember if it was.
I thought there was some reference to Revan.
I can't remember if that was Rebels or Clone Wars. When they remade or didn't remake. Sorry, they added on that last season of Clone Wars. I think it might have been there, yeah. But yes, they did. So Revan is actually canon, Star Wars. Whether or not,
yeah, we just don't know all the details. It was sort of like when they brought in Thrawn, and it's like, well, the Thrawn trilogy is not canon, but they're putting Thrawn in this, and we expect him to be.
There's certainly nothing in Knights of the Old Republic that contradicts anything. So there is that. So I guess it doesn't directly contradict.
Right? It's set so far in the past that it.
So at this point, I guess you could say, absolutely, you can still claim it.
Yeah, it's on my hit list for sure. I don't know. I went back and rewatched Neverending Story recently, thinking it was great, and I was like, it's not as good as I thought it was. I still
had fun time. Yeah.
It was fine. But so I have the limited run version of Knights of the Old Republic, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, am I going to play this game and think I'm playing an old game?
I mean, it's Dungeons and Dragons game with a Star Wars skin. Right. Like it really is like the same stats and everything else.
That's really, an elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So did you not play it originally, Liam?
No, I did not.
Did you play Jade Empire?
No. Man, I know.
Okay.
Neverwinter Nights. That was the one before. No.
Well, I mean, it originally was on Xbox, right? Before even PC.
Yeah.
No, I was mainly a console gamer, but I played like Command and Conquer, Warcraft 2. I played all the like Day of the Tentacle and Monkey Islands and those, but that's about it.
I think Jade Empire was before Knights of the Old Republic.
Jade Empire was
after? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was after. I think they were working on it while
they were both in development at the same time.
Knights of the Old Republic 2 went to Obsidian.
Yeah.
And then they started working on Jade Empire instead.
Jade Empire looks awesome.
Jade Empire.
I was going to say, I want a remake of Jade Empire. I'm not going to throw shade at Knights of the Old Republic, but that one clicked with me more.
I've never got a chance to finish the Star Wars game. Jade Empire, but I did Well, I did like what I played of it. It's a similar kind of style game.
I replayed Knights of the Old Republic like 5 years ago, and I think it's still a fun game. It shows its age, but I don't think that. I mean,
but it's
play
not
a lot
unplayable
of games,
either. That's the thing.
I think it's just
it just looks it looks a little janky, but it plays well. Does that make sense?
Sam's not put off by the age of a game.
No.
Jade Empire, $15 on Steam. Don't make me do this.
Do it.
I might
try it out.
It could happen.
It's a good game. If you had an Xbox, I'd just send you my copy on Xbox. But
I don't have an Xbox, but I appreciate that.
And in all those games,
Remedy.
really have a Jade Empire 2. The story is really good.
Yeah, that's
like I said.
I mean, that's what they do. That's the same as like Mass Effect and like all the like. This is their kind of thing,
or at least was. I'm not sure what they're doing anymore, but anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh yeah, studios change over time. So.
And then, I was just going to put in here. I technically I've only opened the package and I haven't actually had a chance to play it. But by the time people hear this, hopefully they will. It'll be true. Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door for the Switch is released. And that is it is. I know it's so cliche to say, but to me, it is the best of the series, and I am looking forward to a replay of it again. Even though I have it on GameCube and could play it at any time. Like Sam's probably just like, oh, see, here we go. But I am glad though, because there are lots of people that it's not an accessible game. You know,
this is the one that nobody should be complaining there's a port, because this is $100 game.
Yeah, still, yeah.
It's gone down.
Hey, that might be
bit,
on someone's list, Sam. Let's not get too hasty here.
It's like 70 some dollars.
I hope you have a backup game, Shannon.
No.
Yeah. Still $70 to play a
and
you gotta buy a GameCube. And you gotta buy a GameCube if you don't have one.
Or an early Wii.
Everybody has a Wii.
But
that's your grandma.
The point is that and it does look like, I mean, they've refreshed the graphics, really do look crisp.
It does look really good.
And it definitely doesn't look like just a straight up port. And either way, just being able to play it on the go is enough for me to want to replay it. So
I want to see what Rock Hawk looks like in HD.
That's right.
That's what I'm really hoping for.
That's right.
I need some Rock Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if cracking plastic on a game means you played it, then I played Balan Wonderworld.
Well, see, there you go.
Wonderland or whatever it was.
Did you open yours?
Oh, you didn't keep it sealed?
I have one that's sealed, John.
I thought we were cornering that market.
I have
sealed.
I have two sealed ones.
I'm pretty sure I could still go into my Walmart and buy one. Of course, the price is probably still $60 though on it.
Insane, yeah. Everybody buy. Diamond Hands.
Well, Thousand Year Door is a great game. I will agree on that. So, with that said, let's move on to our Prices Retro game.
Let's do it.
Everybody ready? All right. If this is your first time playing along at home, here is how we play. I'm going to list 4 or 5 games, and everyone has to guess how much the lot is worth in total. Whoever guesses closest to the actual value wins the round. Everyone has a list. Everyone guesses on everyone else's list. At the end, the player that wins the most rounds wins the episode, with the tiebreaker decided by the single closest guess. But watch out for our trio of automated competitors who do have a win now, as of last time. The ghost, the dinosaur, and the robot, they all have their own guesses based on their own little preferences there.
Teamwork.
So, Liam, you are the guest. Would you like to go with the first list?
I'll go with the first list. So my partner in RetroGroove is not here, Adam. And so because of that, I get to talk about butt rock, and he can't say anything about it. So my list is based around video games that have featured Bat Country by Avenged Sevenfold, because a banging soundtrack from the 2000s is all you really needed in a video game, including Tony Hawk. So in the spirit of Tony Hawk's soundtrack, here are 4 games that predominantly featured Avenged Sevenfold's Bat Country. So my first game is SSX on Tour for the GameCube, complete in box. I have NHL 2006 or 06, new for the GameCube.
New?
Oh. New.
Okay.
GameCube. I have Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, just the game, no peripheral. This isn't the band bundle. It's not the guitar bundle. It's just the disc package, complete in box. And I have Saints for Wii, sorry. And I have Saints Row 2 for the PS3, new. And Bat Country is a great song, and Avenged Sevenfold rock.
I agree. What's Adam's beef with Avenged Sevenfold?
He doesn't have beef with Avenged Sevenfold. It's just not his genre. And we did a build a band for a rock band around Halloween, and I put one of the members of Avenged Sevenfold in there because I thought they were rad.
All right, who's guessing first on this one?
Well, I just will. I will just say I have no idea, but I'm gonna go 430, and hope some of that one new GameCube game is worth a lot.
I'm gonna go 250. I beat you, Sam.
Oh, okay. You guys are guessing a lot higher than I'm thinking. I mean, I know new games, but like, I feel like these games new doesn't.
You don't think Avenged Sevenfold adds to the value, Sam?
I don't think it adds to the collector.
How much do you think an
value.
Avenged Sevenfold CD is worth right now? It's probably like $100, right?
I have no idea. Probably
no,
not.
It's
though.
like $2.
My guess is $111.
All right, everyone guessed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Grand total is $118.86. Sam almost slammed a jamma.
There you go.
That. Oh man, I was way off.
Sam makes a beast out of himself.
That's right. Let's get rid of the pain of being a man.
That's right.
What was the breakdown of that?
Oh, sorry. So SSX on Tour, complete in box for GameCube is $24.95. NHL 06 new for GameCube, $35.59. Yeah,
that might have been where I was off.
It's like, new GameCube. It's a little, you never know.
Yeah.
Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, complete in box for the Wii, $30.98. And Saints Row 2 new for the PS3, $27.34. I've never played Saints Row 2. Saints Row 3, I think, is the one that's on Switch, and I played through that a bit, and it was bonkers, but it was fun. Who's next?
Right. I'll go.
I'll go next.
You got it, Shannon.
Okay.
All right.
You can go, Shannon.
So these are games that feature skateboarding, but are not skateboard games, with the exception of one. These are all games, too, that I actually have played. I have not played a whole lot of modern or even retro skateboarding games, as we'll kind of talk about, but I have played these. So the first one is Skate or Die for the original Nintendo, complete in box. I guess technically that is a skateboarding game. But the rest of these are not skateboarding games per se.
Yeah.
The next one is Simpsons Bart versus the Space Mutants for the original Nintendo, complete in box.
Ooh.
I loved that game.
Yes. Lots of good memories. My buddy and I.
Until I got to the museum, and then I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that was a little... Back then, you just kind of had to keep trying to figure it out because, we just passed the controller back and forth. Next one is Back to the Future, that wonderful gem for the Nintendo. Complete in box. Fourth one is Adventure Island for the for the Game Boy. For the Game Boy, complete in box. And the last one is Kingdom Hearts 2. Yes, you could skateboard in Kingdom Hearts 2 for the PS2, complete in box.
All right. Is there an order we want to guess in? I could go first. It's up to you.
Go ahead, Liam.
All right. I am going to do a cool 390 on mine.
Okay, that's actually a little bit closer to what I was guessing. That gives me confidence.
I haven't bought a retro game in almost a year, Sam.
Well, you know.
But we got this. It's going to be fine.
I haven't bought a complete in box NES game in ever, actually. So,
let's see. I'm going to go 320. And then Sam, did you guess?
Yeah, 415.
Okay. Sorry.
All right, Shannon? This one belongs to John. Total of $302.
Ooh.
Actually, no. That's not mine.
Oh, the ghost.
Yeah,
I almost forgot about the ghost.
He always guesses 300.
Oh, man, yeah.
The ghost just robbed that from the Joe.
Yes. Skate or Die for the NES complete is $38.
Got that.
Bart versus the Space Mutants was $65. Back to the Future complete in box is apparently $69. That one kind of surprised me.
Nice.
Adventure Island complete in box for the Game Boy is $115. And Kingdom Hearts 2 is a whopping $15.
Yeah.
I thought the Game Boy one was going to be... Those Game Boy ones are
especially
tricky.
complete in box.
Complete Game Boy games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bananas.
So all games where you skateboard at least a little. So
do you skateboard in a Pokemon game? I feel like it's usually a bike, but I feel like there's a skateboard. There's roller skates.
You surf.
You surf, you skate, you roller skate.
It's always but you surf a Pokemon. You don't surf a board. Yeah. They need to make a surfboard.
If you could surf a Pokemon, you could surf a board.
Pikachu could learn to
surf. That's a $10 million idea as a surfboard Pokemon. Let's petition it.
Do it. People love Pokemon based on inanimate objects, right? They're always the most popular.
Whatever that sword one is, I think that's in X and Y. That's one of my.
That's Honage.
That's one of my favorite. Yeah. That's got 2 evolutions. Eventually, it's 2 swords. It's amazing.
Is it Dual Edge or what's the
Honage?
Yeah, it's
Honage, however you say it.
Honage, and then I don't know what the double sword is.
It's awesome. It's Aegis Slash.
See now,
Aegis Slash.
That would be terrifying. Living in that world, you're just walking along, and all of a sudden these swords are chasing after you.
Shannon, all Pokemon is terrifying to live in that world. Detective Pikachu really sugarcoated what a Pokemon world would look like. It's a nightmarescape.
People never die in Pokemon.
That's why nobody has parents.
I guess just the mime Pokemon,
just the Great War
Pokemon would be enough for me to be like, no, I'm gone.
Literal dragons. Literal dragons and a Firebird.
Right.
That's without even getting into all the ghost Pokemon that abduct children while they're sleeping.
Actual ghost Pokemon.
All of this, and you're a 10-year-old protagonist in the game. Like, go sent out into this world.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Pokemon's a weird world.
Oh man. All right.
It really is.
Right. Who's up next?
I'll present the next list since I was about to. My list has nothing to do with the topic.
How dare you?
Instead, it is the classic the classic way of building a Price is Retro list, which is to type a word in the search bar and pick a bunch
You
of
made a
things
damn
and have that
list.
word. So I have a game I just picked up, actually. Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx 16, loose.
Okay.
Axelay. Axelay for the Super Nintendo, loose. Golden Axe, the Commodore 64 version, complete in box.
Complete.
Pickaxe Pete for the Magnavox Odyssey 2, complete in box. And lastly, Axe for the ZX Spectrum, complete in box.
It's just called Axe? Is there an E or is it just AX?
It's just called Axe. A-X-E.
What was the third game?
Axe. The third
Commodore
game was
64.
Pickaxe Pete? No, Golden Axe for the Commodore 64.
Okay.
Sorry. I read them out of order from my list here.
I guess I need to go first on this one because I can't.
Godspeed.
Yeah, you haven't. You
I
haven't
can
gone
on the
first
next
yet.
list. These were all pretty. Did you say these? What the first one was loose, right? And then the rest of them were.
The first two were
were
loose.
loose.
Axelay for the Super Nintendo is loose. Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx 16 is loose.
Okay. I'm gonna do 150.
Wow.
That makes me feel a little bit better. I have 125.
Oof. Okay, I'm at 320, so I don't know where I'm at. Where am I shopping? Wrong store.
Well, we'll see in a moment.
Maybe. Oh, the total is 176.38. So, Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx 16, $57.23. Axelay for the Super Nintendo loose, $73.38. Pickaxe Pete for the Magnavox Odyssey, $19.46. Golden Axe for the Commodore 64, $17.66. And Axe for the ZX Spectrum, $8.65.
So it's the Super Nintendo one that I undervalued a little bit.
So wait, so those older games,
Yeah.
those are complete in box and they're worth nothing? That's wild.
Pretty much.
It's all based
So-
on demand.
Nobody buys Commodore 64 games.
You're never gonna believe
It's
this.
sort of like most Atari games are pretty cheap.
Yeah.
The robot actually won that round.
Oh man!
Even though
The
gonna
robot
happen
wins
again.
around.
even though so listen, so even though I guessed $25 or $26.38 off, since Shannon guessed so low and Liam guessed so high, the average came out to be only $21.95 away.
I feel like the robot never won before.
The robot never does win, but he got this. Well, it also helps whenever you have a guest because he actually works better.
Yeah.
When you just have two people, it kind of throws it off a little bit. It's harder for him to win.
Y'all
So
are
when
going
you
to
have
have season
three-
4, right? And you're going to introduce some AI goblin or something.
That's season 5.
And Price is Retro is just going to run itself like an AI program. And it's going to be amazing to just watch it go. They're
That's
taking
crazy.
over. Yeah.
They are. They've won 2 now. So unless who won the first one?
I did.
Yeah, unless Sam can.
And I was really close, too. So if I can get another round, I can
I think
take it.
RetroLogic lore should have them all on like an evil villain team, like Team Rocket. And so collectively their wins count as one.
Well, they are our Rampage.
So-
They're the evil Rampage team.
They are the evil Rampage team. You're right. Oh my god, I love this.
So this is also the second time that I was the closest human guesser, but they stole it from me in the last because the ghost took that last one from me.
They're out to get
They
you
are.
specifically.
Well, they can on this next list, so that's all right.
all right.
All right, here we go.
All right, let me clear.
I don't know if
dinosaur out.
I'm rooting for myself or if I'm actually rooting for Sam. Like, because if I win or if Liam wins,
Yeah. Throw the match for humanity. Do it for humanity.
Yeah, this is a fight for all humanity.
Okay, so first, this is a list of N64 games that are either Tony Hawk or Tony Hawk-like. There really wasn't a whole lot of other stuff, but I tried to grab some things that I thought were similar.
Yeah.
First game is Twisted Edge, N64 complete in box. The second game is Tony Hawk for the N64 complete in box. The third game is 1080 Snowboarding for the N64 complete in box.
I have that.
The last game is Snowboard Kids for the N64 complete in box.
Snowboard Kids 1.
The original, not 2. It could be a very important thing.
Mm-hmm. Who hasn't guessed first? Is it me?
I think it's you.
Yeah. Oh, I got to lead off. Okay. I'm going to say 380.
Okay.
I've got 260.
And I'm at 295.
Okay. So the total of my lot is $323.92.
Is that the ghost?
I was just wondering.
So,
or is it Sam?
I think that's got to be one of
Is
them.
it the ghost or is it? Yeah, I feel
so.
Ghost beats me. It's either the ghost or the robot.
So the robot wins again.
Robot wins again.
Yeah. So the ghost was off by $23.92. Sam was off by $56.
Oh.
The robot was only off by $12.25.
Wow.
And it's because you guys were all floating around the number.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
See, this is how the robot was supposed to work last season, but we just hardly had any guests. I think the robot would have taken a lot more wins from us last year.
See, the robot actually hit me up and said, "Can I join the show to help its chances here?"
That's right.
So, it's taken over.
Wow,
Oh,
man. Whew.
The robot just became Terminator all of a sudden. This show. So yeah, the Rampage wins again.
Love this.
This is an unprecedented. I don't think the
2 in a row.
Yeah, 2. I don't think 2 in a row has ever happened for the inanimate player.
Yeah, so this needs to be a call to arms to the RetroLogic community.
That's right.
Do all that you can. Be on the show.
Send some lists
this
in.
all down. Submit some lists.
Yes.
Yeah, otherwise we got a big problem here because this trio is oof.
It's tough whenever you have, like I said, whenever you have that third person, that it works that calculation even better for having the robot have better guesses.
So
when you only have 2 people, he's just in the middle of your guesses, essentially.
what was the breakdown of your list? Did you give the breakdown?
I did not. Let me do that real quick. So, the first game, Twisted Edge for the N64 complete in box, $35.84. Then we have Tony Hawk for the N64 complete in box, $36.99. 1080 Snowboarding for the N64 complete in box, $40 even. And then Snowboard Kids for the N64 complete in box, $211.09.
I was off on that. I knew it was a valuable game, but
I had 150. That's 200 something is bonkers.
It's tough.
Yeah, it was actually just overvaluing the others.
And 2 is...
I tend to assume if it's a complete in the box cartridge game, it's probably over 50. But
those sports games, man.
Snowboard Kids 2 is even more.
Oh, Snowboard Kids 2 is insane. Yeah, that's got to be like $400 or $500 if it's complete, right? Yeah,
I would think.
Yep, crazy.
Well, the Rampage trio can't beat us at trivia. At least.
That's right.
So, ooh, yeah. Let's see.
But the trivia could beat us, I suppose.
All right, so it looks like we got one more modern game and one, what I would say is retro. So first one, in Rocket League, Anybody a Rocket League player? All right, here we go.
I have played Rocket League.
In Rocket League, scoring a goal while upside down is classed as what type of goal? I never would have known this. I've played Rocket League a handful of times with my kids when it first came out.
I've played Rocket League a lot. I don't think I ever scored a goal while being upside down.
I don't know that I hardly scored a goal, period. So
It's pretty rough.
No?
I don't know.
Goal down
what would
under.
be something clever for an upside down goal?
Sky's the limit goal. What is it?
Answer is turtle goal.
A turtle goal. I like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, so this one, though, I think we have a better chance of. Which was released earlier? Pokemon Ruby or Pokemon Emerald?
Ruby.
Pokemon Ruby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emerald's the third game.
So there we go. We
Nice.
we got one.
Redemption.
That's right.
Hooray.
Surely if you're
Have value.
If you're scoring a goal upside down in Rocket League, you have to be in the air, right?
Maybe.
No, I don't think you have to be in the air.
Yeah, but how are
It
you?
could just bounce off you.
Yeah, I guess that's very unlikely, though. I could see like being upside down and hitting it, like doing like in the middle of a flip or something in the air, because that happens a lot. But like just being on the ground upside down, you're not really doing much if you're upside down.
No, that's true.
That's what makes it special.
That's right. So that's how you turtle.
All right, well, we can take a quick break and we will move on to our show topic. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Welcome back, and our topic for tonight is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, specifically the 25th anniversary coming up of the original game's release. Original release was September 29th, 1999 on the PlayStation, so that's what I'm getting at with 25 years. Haven't quite reached the actual date yet. Later came to the N64, March 15th, 2000. March 21st, 2000 was the Game Boy Color game, which is kind of different. May 24th, 2000 on Dreamcast. And then later, October 13th, 2003 on the N-Gage.
Good
job,
Good
N-Gage
job,
release.
buddy.
3 years later.
And May 5th, 2005 on mobile.
So I saw this in the notes. So there's a mobile version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skateboarder. Has anybody ever seen
so.
it? Like, I don't know. The button combo.
It has to be on like a
It
Nokia.
was also a 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. So,
so it's physical buttons, right?
I mean, it's already on the N-Gage. That's like
basically a phone.
halfway there.
Yeah. I feel like it must have been like on like a Sidekick or something, right? With the full keyboard and doing the whole thing. I can't imagine how you would play this game without buttons.
With 10 key, like the...
Yeah.
Either that or it's just a very simplified, like...
Endless
technically,
runner.
But trick.
You technically only need...
20 years ago, we weren't doing smartphones yet, really. Like, there's no way this
2007 was the first smartphone.
Right, so this is not a touchscreen game either. Like, this is...
No, but I'm saying that 2005 mobile game only had to have 6 buttons. It only had to have directional and then an A and a B, essentially. Because the same game was played on Game Boy Color, which also has those same inputs.
So, yeah.
And it was probably the isometric one, like if you've ever played... Well, it's probably not even that. It's probably the top-down. I think Game Boy Color was top-down. Game Boy Advance, whatever they released, Tony Hawk Underground, that was like kind of an isometric view. It was kind of made to look 3D-ish. It's like 2.5D, but the way that the camera's angled, it looked like you could see everything. And That was actually really good. I had Tony Hawk's Underground and Underground 2 on Game Boy Advance, and they both played really good.
Yeah, the mobile games look quite different.
Yeah.
As you might
Although
guess.
I'm seeing one of them has Lil Jon and Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day as unlockable characters, which has my interests piqued.
Yes.
He's like, how do I emulate this?
Yeah, how do I want to play this game now?
That has to be one of the... That has to be like one of the strangest sentences anyone's ever heard. Like
that
Little John.
So 2005.
Hey,
those
listen,
two have probably never met.
I mean, I was going to get to this before, but the guest characters for Tony Hawk really was.
Oh, they were great.
This was before Fortnite. There was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Before Tony Hawk, there was NBA Jam.
Would show up. That's true. Yeah,
I think this kind of gets some of that pedigree from, or the ideas, like the more obscure and out there, the better. Like we want all the crazy stuff.
I mean, I remember skating as Spider-Man, which was awesome. Like,
yes,
that's fantastic.
Well, that didn't come till Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yeah, I was going to say that was
the first game was actually pretty tame with characters. The characters for the very first game was restricted to Tony Hawk, Bob Burnquist, Kareem Campbell, Rune Cliffberg, Bucky Lasek, Chad Muska, Andrew Reynolds, Jeff Rowley, Alyssa Steamer, Jamie Thomas, and then the two unlockable characters who I think have been in every Tony Hawk game since, which are the cops, Officer Dick and Private Carrera. But no Spider-Man until Tony Hawk 2.
Yep. Yeah, and at this time, Tony Hawk Pro Skater was basically just like a giant birdhouse advertisement. Like, that's what was going on in here. Most of these skaters were skating Birdhouse or, the top 3 skate brands.
Yeah, well, so at least for the first game, the playable characters were selected by Tony Hawk himself, which obviously factors in Birdhouse, but it was also just his take on what would be a good subset of skaters who are different styles and representative.
This game made me buy a Bucky Lasek deck. Like I had I had the one with the rooster.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. I still have it actually.
Did you skate, John?
I did.
Wow. Okay, you're cooler than me.
I mean, I did what I would like to say was like a decent job at skating. I could do a handful of things.
Okay.
We didn't have a good skate park or anything. So like it was
we had an elementary school.
Just what you could find around town. My kids are spoiled. There's a skate park here and like none of them use it. So it's kind of sad. Like a nice skate park. Like we have a pretty good one.
Yeah, but would you empower them to go
I've
break
taken
their wrists? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, why not? I mean, I
don't know. My kid went to a roller rink recently, which I definitely went to as a kid for birthday parties. And they make you put wrist guards on now, which is smart. But I was also like, do we need to do this? Like, everybody's just going to fall down and get hurt. Like, it's a game of who falls down first. That's the game. That's the whole thing.
Well, I go to the skate park now, and it's a totally different look than when I was skating. Like, these guys are all wearing like jeans that are painted onto them. They're all like it's just a totally different. Like when I was skating, I don't know how my jeans didn't get caught in my heels while I was skating. I'm like, you guys are. I don't know how this works.
And your airwalks,
that's right.
That's right. Your Stussy shirt. That's the thing about all this too. Like I definitely was bought in on surf and skate culture for my wardrobe, not knowing that that's what I was buying. Like I had Quicksilver and O'Neill and all those kinds of t-shirts and stuff just because I thought like everybody else had them and that was the cool designs. And then you start finding out that these are all brands that are worn by surfers and skaters and you're actually like being co-opted into a
You didn't have a CCS catalog?
It was also very much an aesthetic
100%
of its own that was very strong in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah. And this game definitely capitalized on it at the exact right time too, right? Like this could have been just skate or die again, But it was more so like because of what was going on in the cultural zeitgeist at the time, both with video games growing in popularity and the style of it all and the way it was executed. I think it's a really well executed game for what it is. I mean, for me, in some ways it feels like learning to be a skateboarder but without breaking your wrists, because like I don't know, so the first time that I played this game, I went over to a buddy's house and he had it for his 64, and I played it a couple times and I was bad at it because that's what you do when you play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for the first time, is you just eat it constantly.
The controls are actually pretty complicated to get used to.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I don't want to play this anymore. And we didn't play it. Like, I stopped playing the 64 version, and I picked up, like, South Park's The First Person Shooter or something that instead. Like, I bought some other trash instead of Tony Hawk, you know?
Did you get what was it, Chef's...
No, the Love.
Did he get the Love Shack?
No, I bought the shooter one, like the first.
Yeah,
person
I
one,
can't remember what that was. Just South Park.
I think it was just South Park. Yeah. I opted for that. No, I didn't get into Tony Hawk's Pro Skateboarder until GameCube, until Tony Hawk 3. So I don't want to jump ahead here. Maybe we talk 64 a little bit, and then we can get into the other stuff.
Yeah, 64 is...
I think that's maybe good to just kind of survey what our history with the Tony Hawk games is. For me, I played the first 3 games. The first one is where I started, all on different platforms, oddly enough. But the first on N64, 2 we had for the PC for some reason.
That's a strange place to play, too.
And 3 for the PlayStation.
You had
2.
A controller for your PC?
No, I played on the keyboard. It was like the num keys. The numpad was like what you used for everything.
That's a thing?
It was just, yeah.
Wow.
That's insane.
I can't even fathom. Were you
I mean,
good
I guess
at it?
you only need the arrows.
It was the one I played the least of those 3.
Yeah,
for sure.
I can see that.
I think 3 is probably the one I played the most.
3's incredible.
But 1 definitely at the time.
Did you play 3 on GameCube?
No, on PS2.
I think 3 actually, all 3 of them came to N64. 3 did, yeah. It was a split game between N64 and GameCube.
Wow, I guess that makes sense because the main reason I got it is because I got a GameCube for launch, basically, or Christmas, whatever it was. I think it was Christmas. Yep. It was definitely Christmas because my parents didn't get me any games to play with it. And so I had this GameCube and I was so excited and I didn't have anything to play. Which, I mean, like, whatever. Because I don't think there wasn't a pack-in, right? There was like a demo disc or something like that, but I don't think there was a pack-in. I mean, I have Luigi's Mansion physically. I went out and I got Luigi's Mansion and Star Wars, Rogue Squadron 2, and Tony Hawk 3, because those are the games that they had. They had Wave Race as well, and I chose a different extreme sport. But that's all I had to play. It was like the era of you play what you play, you know, like this is what you can afford now, so you're going to play this freaking game.
Yeah, all 3 N64 games were all colored cartridges. The first game was blue, second game was yellow, third game was black.
Yellow and black, huh?
Yep.
Cool. I like a colored cartridge.
And the first game is where I got started as well. I played it first at a buddy's house, and then I got it for Christmas, and I had that and Donkey Kong 64. So obviously I played Tony Hawk a bunch. I eventually played all the way through Donkey Kong 64, but you can only handle a little bit of that
Congrats.
at a time. Yeah, you can handle a little bit at a time. But I poured a lot of hours into learning the tricks in Tony Hawk. So
when this is, I guess, maybe more towards Sam, but like going from one system to another, like you get your muscle memory down with the button layout to relearn how to skateboard, so to speak, on a different controller it's got to be kind of mind-breaking. And to go from
keyboard.
a PC keyboard to a PS2 controller.
Well, that's just what I did at the time.
Kids.
When you're still pretty young, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Seems like I played Chex Quest, and then I played Tony Hawk 2.
Chex Quest. We could talk Chex Quest. Shannon, did you play Tony Hawk?
So I played one Tony Hawk game. I cannot remember if it was the first one or the second one. I do remember it was on. It was on the N64, and I remember saying, "I have no idea how I'm supposed to be controlling him. Like I couldn't figure it out at all." But it was at a buddy's, and he was definitely into the skateboarding scene. Well, or at least he thought he was. And so he was like, "Oh man, this game is awesome." And it's always been a series that I've had respect for, but never really had a whole lot of firsthand experience with.
Yeah, to me, the Tony Hawk series is way better than any of the other extreme sport games that tried to kind of do similar things like BMX and snowboarding.
Snowboarding games had an okay run, right? Like there was the Tricky series or SXX series.
I feel like that the snowboarding games always try to incorporate racing as well. So I think
they all these others have an inherent problem. Although I guess BMX you wouldn't, right? But so I loved Tony Hawk 3 and 4 so much that I bought Kelly Slater's game on GameCube too. I love the beach. I need to be near the ocean, and so I was like, I wish I was a surfer. I'm definitely not cool enough to do that. So I was like, I'll buy a video game, and then I'll kind of be like a cool surfer. And I didn't like it that much because you were surfing on waves. I don't know what I expected to be doing. Like, that's what you do when you surf, is you go in the water and you surf on waves. But I had played these Tony Hawk games where I'm like pretending I'm Christ and spinning in the air and landing on top of a roof and then like holding my board like a pizza and like all of these crazy moves of like going through houses and breaking down factories. And then I'm like just in the ocean. I'm just like on a wave. It was such a buzzkill that I returned it. Like it's one of the only GameCube games I ever kind of did.
It's not Tony Hawk on water.
It's not Tony Hawk on water. And I feel like my problem with the 1080 games is also that, where it's like you're going from point A to point B. That's it. Like you can throw all the cabins and grind rails and wooded bear infested whatever, but like ultimately you're going from one place to another place. You're going down. So but I never played the BMX games. Matt Hoffman had a couple of those, and I feel like they were pretty popular, but never gave those a try.
Yeah, I like 1080.
Well, that isn't.
But the rest of the snowboard games are kind of, they're okay.
That is an interesting thing about the development of the Tony Hawk series, is that when they were planning levels out, they would just kind of start by picking an environment and then say like, hey, what kind of skateboard tricks do you think somebody could do here? And they did all kinds of, that's why we got like the foundry and stuff. I think that was always my favorite, actually. I think it was like the first stage in 3.
Dude, the cruise ship where they're just like, hey, how about you can just go everywhere on a cruise ship? Yeah.
Well, 3's whenever they really kind of let loose, and there was all kinds of like crazier level designs. I feel like 1 was pretty tame, like
one was the school warehouse, right, the mall, but it was like a really bleak
even then
mall.
It wasn't like you were just going around skate parks, which is what you might expect for a skateboarding game.
They definitely have themes. I liked it. Number 1 snowboarding game, Ski Free on the PC.
Yeah, except that you always get eaten by the Sasquatch, John. It's so frustrating. It's also not a snowboarding game if it's skiing, John.
Yeah, those two are kind of in the same thing.
Totally different.
You can do tricks on skis. Come on. Don't cut those guys up.
So 3 and 4 were huge for me. I mean, the cool thing for me from 3 to 4 was it was both GameCube. So I felt like I cut my chops on 3, and 3 was still structured in those 2-minute intervals too, where you would like go to suburban neighborhood, whatever it was called, and you'd have to like use your time wisely, get the skate letters or figure out where all the bells were or something like that. And you'd chop away at your highlights, but like you had your 2-minute time period and that was it. And I remember it being 4. It's been a while since I played either of these, but 4, I remember playing it and looking for the time constraint, and it wasn't there. It wasn't the like open-ended sort of story mode that we got later on with the Underground series, but it was like a little bit more of there was some freedom to it. I don't even know if there was a time frame for Tony Hawk 4. So I love those games so much, but I was on the go a bunch at that point. So these games came out right as I was graduating from high school, moved off to college, only so much time that I'm in my dorm. But what I was doing is playing video games in the back of my classroom sometimes, or like hanging out in the park. And so admittedly, this little Game Boy Advance cartridge got a buttload of play. Like Tony Hawk 2 for the Game Boy Advance. I know we were just kind of clowning about it being on a mobile phone. This game is way better than it has any right to be. It's what's the perspective that you call a game that's like isometric or it's isometric, right?
It has an
it's
isometric view, where it's static, but
it follows you around a little bit, but you're looking down at an angle to it.
You don't have any camera control.
There's no camera control. The visuals are not great, but they're just good enough. And this is where I played as Spider-Man. I want to say the cool character in Tony Hawk 3 was Darth Maul, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Darth Maul was...
Yeah, I remember Darth Maul.
There you go, Shannon. See, you could have played as Darth Maul.
Well...
Like, you blew it.
Well, I could always go back, I suppose, and track the
to
game.
3. I don't know if you can get. Well, 3's a GameCube game. Maybe you could do that.
You could play it on N64. Come on.
You can't play Tony. Oh, you're right. So you can be Darth Maul in Nintendo 64.
Well, I mean, had I known I could play as Spider-Man and Darth Maul, I might have been a little more apt to.
He had the double light. Yeah, he had the double light.
So are you just like skating around and mowing people down with the lightsaber, or what?
Well, there's no people.
There's no other skaters.
Yeah, there's no people, but you are spinning your lightsaber around, and that's pretty awesome. But yeah, so both like the full series had a few issues where it was like it would say ride the blue bull or something like that. Like it would like have a goal that you had to do, and like maybe you knew what it was and maybe you didn't. But in the console games, there was a video that showed you like at least a little perspective of like, here's the bowl. Like, this is kind of what you should be doing here. In the GBA game, it was just a list. It just said, like, spit take the helicopter blade or something. And I'm like, I don't know what any of that means. And so I definitely spent hours trying to decipher what the little goal was on this thing. Like, just trying every little trick to figure out how I could check those things off the boxes. Nowadays, that would drive me mad. Back then, perfect time killer. Like, this is all that this was just I would just go time and time again into this game. And that's the other thing I want to call out on this is like the 2-minute clipping of the earlier games is so perfect to just like one more run it, right? It was such an early example of like, yeah, I'm gonna go again. It's just 2 minutes. Like I'm just gonna eventually beat my score and whatever.
Eventually, you get good enough to where you can do all the objectives in that 2 minutes.
All right, you don't have to brag about it. Like that's.
Well, I'm
insane.
Just saying, like that's
no
like
one can
that's
do that.
the goal.
And get the secret tape. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
All of those things.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, fine. some people could do that.
Well,
I mean, obviously the score. If you're just doing tricks everywhere you go, you'll.
Well, yeah, especially so. I didn't do 1 and 2, so I didn't really have a whole lot of experience in not having manuals and reverts, right? But like reverts, I think were new in 3, and you could chain stuff together to do all these crazy combos and just rack up a ton of points.
You could you didn't do it with manuals, but you could do it with grinds in the first 2 games. Okay.
Yeah. Before you pretty much had to grind your way everywhere to get one,
which is way more difficult.
Yeah,
you had to make sure you landed on something,
but
that
it
you
was
grind on.
More fun.
I thought manuals were kind of like I know you could just sit, you could try to like balance a manual all the way across the level to something. You could tie a lot of things together,
yeah, but
it just didn't seem as fun as trying to find the grind points on the stage to keep a combo going.
Yeah. 3 also had unlockable skater videos, which is a huge part of that culture. Is like getting these shots of these cool tricks, and that's where I discovered, like, I'm not a savant or a super fan of the sport, but like Rodney Mullen, I don't know if you guys played 3 extensively, but like there's a video of him doing handstands and stuff that game, and it made me go and seek out more stuff, which pre-YouTube was impossible. But over the years, I've gone down the rabbit hole of Rodney Mullen and the stuff that he did, because Tony Hawk was always over the top, right? Like the majority of the moves that happen in that game, realistically, most skaters are doing 1 or 2 of those together at best. And like some of those error moves are just non-existent. The pizza guy move,
you don't have enough.
Yeah.
You can't get enough air to do those.
Yeah. I mean, when you watch the X Games, like I remember watching the X Games after playing Tony Hawk, like soon after, and I was like, why aren't they just doing 540 airwalks? And I'm like, oh, because you would die. Like, you just fall. There's no way to actually do the things that you do in this game. But I don't know if Mullen in that video was, because you can do handstand tricks in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in playing the game, I was like, okay, this is over the top. Doesn't exist. This is just fun video game stuff. And then there's a video of the guy doing the handstand skateboarding, and it to some sort of like flip thing, and then he lands it. Dude, it's unreal. It's so cool. So I loved that you could like dig yourself into skate culture and watch these videos. It's like having a cool skate DVD on top of a video game. It's awesome.
Yeah, neat.
Well, and that kind of goes back to, this was both riding sort of the crest of the wave of the popularity of skateboarding in the wider culture, but also kind of served to extend it a lot longer than it would have. Like, it kind of pushed it further.
Yeah, I think it spurred a whole other generation. Just did for you. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't try to go skating or anything, but like it definitely pulled me into that world much more. The X Games were blowing up at that point and had their run. Like it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, I mean, the X Games started in 1995.
Right.
So that's 4 years before the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which, like, that timeline is just... maybe I'm just disconnected from the culture now, but it really felt like skateboarding was sort of unavoidable, even to the mainstream in the 90s. I feel the same way sort of about wrestling, pro wrestling. Like,
that's a great call. Also great.
Like, I know it's still around. I know there's still a big scene, but like, you didn't even, like, even if you didn't know anything, like, even if you didn't watch wrestling, like, you knew who the biggest names were. And that's what Tony Hawk did for skateboarding. Like, even if you didn't watch the X Games, you knew who Tony Hawk was. You even knew who some of these other skaters were, because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was a thing.
Well, and so it somehow serendipitously, or maybe not, landed it. He landed the 900, right? And that was a whole thing. Like, it was on the Today Show.
I watched that
Tony
live.
Hawk did the thing. Did you?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's cool. He landed the 900, and then his video game came out, and like everything kind of aligned in that like 1 to 2 year span at the end of the 90s that just made it what you're talking about, I think, where it's just like it was this thing, and now it's just everybody knows about it, and there's a Michael Jordan of skateboarding, and
he definitely
he's cool.
Definitely was at that point in time. There was nobody else. I mean, that was another thing I was going to say. Like with the
Bam
900, I don't know
Margera, John.
No,
Don't
he's
take away
not.
from Bam Margera.
He's not half of the skateboard Tony Hawk.
No,
Tony Hawk
he's definitely
was.
not. But he's an entertaining
but there's different
MTV
styles of
personality.
skateboarding. So
Yes.
like Tony Hawk is a vert skateboarder.
Guy,
Yeah, he's the guy that's on the half pipe getting all the tricks in the air. Some of these other guys are definitely more like freestyle type skaters, or they're definitely working the ground a lot more.
Yeah.
With stuff.
Did you guys play multiplayer at all?
Oh yeah.
I
did some.
I thought it was so fun. I always tried to get my friends, like we would in the GameCube era, there were so many great options. It was always Smash and Double Dash and Mario Party. But I would always try to like shove in a Tony Hawk run, because I did graffiti. I don't know about you guys, but like
I had to refresh myself what the modes were, and I remembered graffiti.
So smart.
I don't think I played it much, but I'm like, why was this not the mode we were playing? This sounds like the best mode.
It's so fun. So Shannon, I don't know if because you said you hadn't really played this much, like graffiti was basically like you're going around a predetermined skate park, and you're doing tricks on different rails and quarter pipes and areas and stuff. And like when you do a trick, it gets tagged to your color, and your score also gets locked to that. So if you do something really sick on a quarter pipe, that's yours. And the only way someone takes that away is if they do a better, like a higher scoring trick on it.
It's kind of like Tony Hawk's Splatoon.
It was so smart. Like I loved it so much. But I think the problem with it, at least in my friend group, was that I was the only weirdo who sat there for hours learning how to get really good at this game, right? And so, like, if I took it to my friend's house and none of them played Tony Hawk, then I'm just going to beat them constantly. Like, there was nothing.
It definitely has the same problem as, like, fighting games of that.
Yeah,
era.
100%. Yeah. So we did some of the other modes because I think those were a little bit easier. There was like
horse is cool.
We didn't do horse much. What was horse? Horse, you had to like pull off the trick.
Yeah. So horse was you guys would do back to back, and then the first person would set the score, and then the second person had to either beat the score or they would get a letter. It works kind of like basketball. Horse.
Yeah.
Where if you shoot, you have to make the next person has to make it from that spot where they get a letter.
Yeah.
And once you spell out horse, you lose.
Yeah, that does sound fun. I definitely didn't play that mode. There was one mode where you're all chasing each other. Like someone would have a crown and you'd be riding around trying to get the person with the crown, because everyone could just do that, But
that wasn't in the original game, I think, but it was in the later ones.
It was super fun.
And then there's Trick Attack, which is just like a time limit.
Yeah, whoever can get the highest score.
Very straightforward.
So this is, I talked a little bit about before we got going, I forgot, but on the first game I had this cartridge and I played it so freaking much. I had the high score on the warehouse for sure. Like I know I had like a couple 100,000 score on it.
I love that you know that you had the highest score.
Oh, I did.
So there was a tally at your school. There was a notebook going around.
Well, I would give the cartridge to a friend. They would keep it over the weekend or whatever, or overnight. They would play to try to beat my score and then give it back.
Dude,
and
that is so cool. Like that. I love that.
You just
so
never
much.
get those stories.
I'm just
That's the thing.
until you confirm it otherwise. I'm just gonna pretend that like this is what you wrote in everybody's yearbook. It was like, just like
there's
beat this score.
There's a picture of me with the Tony Hawk cartridge.
He's just writing his score in other people's yearbooks. Like, good luck.
Dude, what a fun little communal subculture thing to have, where it's just like, all right, who gets the blue cartridge today?
Well, and you
get served. You know,
it's kind of crazy too, because I knew a lot, like, for as poorly as the N64 did compared to the PlayStation, I knew a lot of people that had the N64 as a game console. And I would just hand it to them, and then when we get it back, if they beat my score, I'd go at it again, rack up a higher score, and then give it back to them. We would do that for a while, and because it keeps your initials in there, so whoever.
No, it's like going to the pizza place back.
It's
in
like
the day,
an arcade,
right? Yeah, that's so cool. So we should touch on the rest of the series, because this was a series that every year got a new game. But I'd love to talk about, since we're talking about the cultural impact of things in the overall zeitgeist of where we were at, like the soundtrack. So on RetroGroove, it was one of the earlier things that Adam and I decided we wanted to talk about, because there aren't too many amazing examples of music licensing in games that scale to that amount. I mean, other than the fact that I just rattled off 4 during Price's Retro, so it's out there. But and I think obviously Guitar Hero, Rock Band, that run were founded around that. Dance Dance Revolution had it, but for a game to have licensed music in the abundance and curation of what it did at the time, it was pretty. I think it's very important to what the experience of that game is. Like, if you're going to be trying and failing over and over again as you get good at this video game, you need to be engaged a little bit more than just some kind of throwaway soundtrack. And the curation of, on the 64, it couldn't have been more than 10 to 12 songs. It felt like a lot because the songs were good and they were just.
It might not even been that many.
Maybe, yeah. I think the PlayStation had more songs. I never played it on the PlayStation. But the soundtrack made it feel like you were in the scene. Like I was hearing bands I'd never heard of before. I wasn't cool enough to be listening to Primus in 10th grade. Like I didn't have somebody showing me that. That Goldfinger song is like ridiculously iconic. Basically like the theme song for the series. And again, by the time you got to the third game, some of those bands went on. I bought a bunch of the albums from the artists on there, and some of those bands like AFI went on to be bands that I fell in love with and listen to this day. It exposed you to, punk and hard rock and really cool alt hip hop. It was so well put together. And when we did the research for the episode that we did, there's interviews with Tony where he talks about how, like, in the early days, he was very involved in sort of picking the music. He worked with one other person and kind of handpicked the stuff that he liked. And it's indicative of his musical taste. And I think it's why it reflects the culture so well. As the series goes on, they saw it as such a strong promotional vehicle. Like, it became a massive mover for the artists that were involved. And so he started getting pitched by major labels to try to get their bands in there. And he also says that he would go to coffee shops and people would approach him and be like, can you put my song in your next game? And the bands, like Primus has said, like, people, it was obnoxious to them in some ways because people would know their one song by the band because of the Tony Hawk thing. They were like one hit wonders in a way. But yeah, I can't think of another series that has licensed music that is so perfectly suited and such an integral asset to it. I can go back and listen to those songs now, and I think about nose grinding through Canada. You know, like it brings back nostalgic memories for me.
But I think this game is kind of like the catalyst for that too. Like after Tony Hawk, you started seeing a lot more licensed music in sports games. You started seeing it, you know, just it got popular. Like it was the thing to do. I believe it was the NHL Hits game on GameCube. Like I remember listening to that soundtrack over and over again because it had tons of good music on it.
Yeah, FIFA. I remember FIFA had like Blur and Gorillaz and a couple things.
Yep.
Like, yeah, the EA did a bunch of licensed stuff.
Well, did the first Tony Hawk game, did it have Dead Kennedys on it?
First Tony Hawk game did have Police Truck by Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And there was another song called Here and Now. I can't remember who.
Here and Now is by a band called the Ernies.
Ernies.
I don't know if they ever put anything else. But again, that was just a band that Tony Hawk liked, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, cool, throw that
Well, it was
there.
a good song.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, it's hard. So, not to take it too much into the RetroGroove space, but like mixed CDs and mixed tapes from your friends was a thing, right?
Yep.
And if you went to shows that were at a smaller venue or whatever, inevitably you were going to get handed some demo CD or some compilation CD or something. You know, you walked out of Warped Tour with a Vans, you know, collection or something like that.
Yeah, amongst other CDs.
Yeah, you'd walk away with that. That was just
a
thing. So culturally, it was part of it all. It was a normal thing. That was how you got exposed to new music. Like, it's such a different world now, for better or for worse. Your friends, just like John, you were just saying, like, you knew people who had Nintendo 64s. Part of that's because someone got a Nintendo 64 and then some of those other people around them were like, okay, I should get a Nintendo 64, right?
Yeah.
It's not strange when you like a band and then suddenly a few other people around you like a band. Like, things go viral in little pockets. They always have. And so this just felt like someone slipped you a cool mixtape and all of a sudden you knew all these bands. Dude, I had never listened to Motorhead. I'd heard of Motorhead. I thought that they were like death metal. I didn't know anything about Motorhead. And then I hear Ace of Spades in Tony Hawk and I'm like, oh no, this is my jam. I could listen to this all day.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to what you were saying, it definitely is different, you know, in today's world. In like some ways, you would think that the music industry would be easier to get into because of how like easy it is to get music on into people's ears, but that also increases the amount of people that are vying for the same ear space. So like it's that much harder to get recognized.
Yeah, we're over inundated at this point. If someone gave you a mix CD right now, A, you wouldn't have a CD player to play it, and B, you'd be like, I don't know what any of this is. Like, it's too hard to hear new stuff at this point from that. But anyway, the Tony Hawk soundtracks are legendary and
they're phenomenal.
Yeah, and like again, fully got its hooks into me into the sort of punk mentality that went parallel and integrated into the skate scene. So my next question, I guess, is where did y'all fall off? Because I feel like we all kind of fell off around the same time. Like
three or four.
Most people that are, around 3 or 4 is where most people fall off. At least people around our age.
Yeah.
I had Underground 2 on Game Boy Advance, so I guess that would be the last game that
There's
I
a Game Boy
bought.
Advance Underground. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that would have made its leap to the DS, but maybe that was too early.
I remember American Wasteland. I never did play it. And then after that, I just watched all these games come out, and I did not have any desire to go play them at this point.
They came out every year, right?
Okay.
And it seemed like too much. Like I didn't stay on top of it because I was playing these games and other games. I didn't know you had another Tony Hawk.
Another problem, though, too, is around 2005, when American Wasteland came out, is when we started to see competitors come out. So this is when Skate came out. Which Skate was hands down a better game than Tony Hawk.
Really? I never played it.
Oh, it was way more like, it's less arcadey. It's kind of like the Gran Turismo of skating games. Like there's a lot more touch to it, a lot more feel to the controls. And it was all based on like an open world. So like you would skate around this big open world map, and you would find like areas where people would challenge you to do things, and like it had quests and like story. It was story driven, like, and I think that's where Tony Hawk tried to go like later, down the line. But again, I think that same time period is around the time where we started seeing more competitors to Tony Hawk. It wasn't the only game out there to play.
Yeah.
So I remember jumping to Skate and then playing Skate 1, 2, and 3 on Xbox 360.
Whoa.
And then boom, now I'm off of Tony Hawk.
Yeah. Huh.
And one thing I do find interesting is there were a couple skateboarding games that preceded it just by a little bit. So Tony Hawk, the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater was very much trying to capitalize on what they saw as a growing trend, not just in skateboarding in general, but in video games. Notably, Top Skater in 1997, which is a game made by Sega for the arcade, and Street Skater made in 1998 by EA for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I've never played either of those. But supposedly they were looking at it as these things are doing well, and we could really, hit it big if we get a real, pro skateboarder and get likeness and market it effectively. And so that it was very much a calculated push.
Interesting. I've never heard of those games.
Around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just doing a little bit of basic research for this. One other thing that I found interesting, as we mentioned, Tony Hawk was very involved with the game itself. A lot of decisions were made by him or took input from him. He wasn't just saying, use my picture, use my likeness. He was offered, he did a lot of the play testing himself, actually, and actually like slipped copies to people he knew in the skateboarding world to kind of get feedback from them as well.
Wow.
But he actually initially turned down a one-time offer for use of his name and likeness in favor of royalties. And at least according to the Wikipedia entry I read, he earned 10 times that initial offer within the first 2 years.
That's amazing.
So,
yeah, take the royalties if you believe
in this case, he definitely made the right call.
Yeah. I feel like it's interesting that it took a few years before we got that Skate, authentic thing that you're talking about on Xbox. I do feel like there were, you had your sort of iterations on the format a little bit. I've never played this game because it's wildly expensive, but I saw a copy in a store once, and that's as close as I'll ever get, which is Go-Go Hyper Grind.
Oh, yeah. That's more animated, though.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy cartoon characters in a Tony Hawk game looks amazing, by the way. It became such a sort of normalized format for video games that, look, obviously the what is it, the Jet Grind radio, Jet Set radio. Those games are their own thing for sure. But
honestly, those were coming out around the same time as this.
Were they?
Yeah, because that Jet Set Radio was a Dreamcast game.
So
which
that
would have been 98, 99, 2000.
Yeah.
Those same years.
Yeah.
Because by 2001, Dreamcast was no bueno.
Yeah. They had the peripheral that came out a few years later, right? Where you're supposed to stand on a fake skateboard and skate.
That was for Ride.
Yeah, for Ride.
Yeah.
And but then they did Downhill Jam, which I didn't play. They did Tony Hawk 5, which seems like it was pretty good. But then it all came back to the remake of 1 and 2 recently, which I did pick up. Because, again, like those are two games that I have some experience with, but I didn't play as much as I played 3 and 4. And I thought the remake was really solid. I guess for me, and it's an ongoing thing, I don't know if I have the bandwidth or time to get good at a video game again like that. Like, when I played it, I felt that same feeling of I need to sit here and I need to learn my X diagonal push and my Y pivot and like really get the revert to the manual to the whatever. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I could be playing something else. I don't know. Like I've got a few minutes to play a video game right now, and I don't need to know if I need to learn how to be a digital skateboarder again.
So in 1 and 2 remake, did they put the grind or the manual into it?
Manuals and reverts from the later games are in 1 and 2 now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And look, the integration's great. The character building and the sort of what is it? The stats elements, like making yourself stronger and better and finding everything. I mean, it looks great. It plays great. The 2-minute time limit's still there, which is cool. But I don't know. It also, I guess, for me, it also just feels kind of. It didn't feel dead to me back in the day. Skating by yourself around an airport didn't seem as weird to me, I guess, as it does now. Like, I'm playing these levels and I'm like, where is everybody? Why is there not anyone anywhere?
You're used to it now, but there's no people. They didn't want to waste resources.
I guess it doesn't look. Making a Tony Hawk game be immersive and doing world building is not the most important thing to do. Like, I get it.
Well, again, but that's why you have Skate, if that's what you want.
Is that what it's like?
Yeah, there's people everywhere giving you quests. And
see, I do like that. Like, I kind of wish that there were at least people like sitting at the tables that I'm grinding on or something. So, like there's just enough. It's just me.
Now you're going to go online. You're going to buy Jade Empire and Skate.
It's the
RetroLogic effect.
That's the actual real Tony Hawk's Pro Skater lore. Is that
everyone's dead?
These skaters, these skaters are like the last of humanity.
Yeah. That's Tony Hawk Wasteland, which is American Wasteland. There we go.
Yeah.
2004. I never got that far.
I mean, look, Underground. So I played Underground a little bit, and Underground had a story mode where you would get off your skateboard, you'd drive cars, you'd climb buildings. It was like a 3D platformer, and there was like gangs. There's like gang warfare and stuff. It was like
that's what you want. It wasn't that's great. What you want out of your skateboarding game.
Yeah, it was mildly racist. And like it felt like when they wedged the on foot stuff into Rogue Squadron 3, right? Where you're like, I could have just used another Rogue Squadron that was like the other two. I didn't need the on foot stuff.
I'm also looking at this timeline and I'm seeing like 10 games between Pro Skater 4 and Pro Skater 5. So that to me is sort of a sign that you've got some series bloat there.
100%,
that's some Kingdom Hearts sequel.
Well, I think there was a lot of experimentation going down.
There is, but years.
I think a number of those are like the DS games too, which were
DS
like
games and their own motion games from the Wii.
Yeah, but it's also like when you have Eminem puts out the Marshall Mathers LP, and it's one of the most iconic hip-hop albums of all time, and then like 15 years later, he's like, this is the Marshall Mathers LP2. And everyone's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I liked that first one from a long time ago. I'll get this one. So I think...
Let me remind you of the things back when this was good.
That's exactly what it is. It's like, no, trust me, this time it's good. Like, come back, you know?
Forget about all the stuff I did in between.
Yeah, all that other stuff is fine. This is the fifth one. We're doing it again, guys. We're getting the band back together.
I don't even remember Pro Skater 5 coming out. Like, that's how far removed I was by this time. A few years ago. That was like 9 years ago.
Was it?
Pro Skater 5 was 2015. So yeah, 9 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. I thought it was more recent.
Sorry, Liam.
Yeah.
I lost time there.
Yes, for real.
Just time gets
I'm saying that's a last gen game. Like,
it is.
But I don't remember it coming out. Like, I don't remember anyone talking about it. I don't remember being announced. We were all too busy playing Fallout 4. No one cared about Tony Hawk.
Oddly enough, the closest I have even come to like getting back into Tony Hawk was just because there was a demo out for it. If you remember the little indie game Skatebird.
Oh yeah.
Which was definitely modeled on... I remember playing that, and it sort of like reminded me what Tony Hawk was like. But I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it.
I wanted to
Ollie
play
games are fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but Ollie's a different type of game.
But I just mean like learning mechanics, right? Like it's totally a different type of game, but like to immerse yourself, like Hollow Knight, right? Like a Hollow Knight, I took the time and I spent it and I worked my way through that game. Celeste, I did that, you know? Like, I don't know if I want to do that for Tony Hawk again. Like,
I would go back and learn Tony Hawk 1 before I'd go play Hollow Knight again.
But Hollow Knight's gonna transfer over to Silksong.
Some things you don't. Some things you remember quickly, right? It's like riding a bike.
There is a muscle memory, right? There's a muscle memory. But when I played this new Switch version, I'm trying to do things with the shoulder buttons, and I keep messing myself up because I'm used to using shoulder buttons for certain things. Like my muscle memory is coming back. Yeah, it's bizarre.
So, yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I might be one of the only people that is not like super excited for Silksong when you said that.
No, it's fine. I look, my muscle memory growing up is I'm a platformer kid, and so I can do those well. I start from a few stages ahead. I'm not starting from scratch. First person shooters, I stink, and I'm never going to take the time to get good at those games. So like, anyway,
I'm going to have to stop playing Dave the Diver to play Tony Hawk 1 on my Switch.
Look, you're going to have great nostalgia for it because you love those first few games, and they definitely improved upon everything. They brought in the old mechanics, the graphics look great, it plays really well, and it is snappy. Again, that 2-minute window, it's such a good little time kill. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to it. It's been a little while since I cracked the plastic on it.
So what I'm getting is that we have great insight on games 1 through 4. The rest of them exist. Look, maybe the folks from our community have more to say about the other games.
Yeah, maybe. Do they?
I don't. We're going to find out here in a minute.
All right.
Well, let's see the community couch. We got a couple of long comments from our community couch on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So thank you for sending that in. Do you want me to read these, or
you can read one and I'll read one, and we can go back and forth.
I'll take the first one. I think there's just 2 of them. Shoner Toad says, I remember when Tony Hawk Pro Skater first released. As a kid, playing the game was for nights and winter when it was raining. But every time I had my friends over, it was always a competition to see who could get the best line or the highest score. I remember several weekends we would carry our TVs to each other's houses and have multiple games going at once. Pizza, tons of soda, and nothing but laughs. Definitely sounds
dedication.
Like a memory lots of us have something similar to.
Carrying your TV to someone else's house, that's dedication.
Carrying your TV to someone else's house is amazing, by the way. Especially because back then, that was
a feat.
You needed a hand truck.
TVs were bigger.
80-pound CRT going to your buddy's house.
Yeah, that's a hernia.
I can read bozos. He says, I was very late to the party with Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I only got into the series around 2016 as I was building up my OG Xbox library, and I had 2X, 3, and 4, which I believe 2X was only on Xbox, right?
Must have been, yeah. I don't know what that is.
I think it was
yes.
I think it was
like it was like an Xbox launch game.
Yes.
Wow.
So they wanted something extra special.
Well, I'm thinking that by the time the Xbox came out, 2 had already been out, so maybe that was like their first chance to bring. Because Xbox did come out earlier than GameCube, and 3 was a launch title for GameCube. So, anyway, he said he was building his Xbox library. He had 2X, 3, and 4 on hand to see what the fuss was about. Going in, I was expecting it to be kind of the game that hasn't aged very well, one whose reputation was heavily embellished by nostalgia for the era it represented. Needless to say, I was very, very wrong. Tony Hawk Pro Skater totally holds up, and the gameplay mechanics offer are not only ridiculously deep, but fluid and cohesive in a way that few other games can match even today. Chaining tricks into manuals, into ramps, into reverts is an absolute sublime gameplay loop that never gets old. I'm always bothered whenever Tony Hawk Pro Skater gets lumped into generic sports categorization, when in reality it has way more in common with combo-oriented action games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta than, say, Madden.
That's a good point.
I think that's why it quickly became one of my all-time favorite series, despite completely missing out on them when they were in the zeitgeist. Oh yeah, the soundtrack, it shreds. It's a huge pop punk fan. I couldn't ask for more.
All right, Bozo.
I'll never forgive Activision Blizzard for shutting down Vicarious Visions and canceling the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster.
Whoa, wait, there was a remaster in the works for 3 and 4?
Yeah.
Now I got to look this up.
1 and 2 is arguably the best remaster ever made and is easily the apex of the entire franchise, despite the morbid state of the franchise was in over the previous 15 years. So yeah, I agree with a lot of this. There's definitely more to this game. It's not a sports game. There's definitely way more skill involved in playing Tony Hawk than, say, a baseball game or Madden or something like that. Like, it's...
Well, I mean, don't get me started on genres again.
Yeah.
Game genres just don't make any sense.
No.
I mean, genres for anything. I hear you, for sure.
And, I mean, even this statement where this is more akin to like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta or something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of comboing and working in things. I can totally see that as a valid point.
Yeah, that's a good insight for sure. But it is funny that both comments and everybody's experience here kind of did end at 4, which I think was the series' problem too. Like, it's not. I think that this is not that surprising,
which is
if you're taking a slice of it all.
Really bad, because in 2016. Tony Hawk 5 had just came out the year before.
Yeah,
and he chose to go back and play 2X, 3, and 4
the old ones instead. That's pretty amazing, and didn't pick up 5. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of picking up the old stuff and seeing whether or not it really holds up.
I mean, I think he was trying.
So many people want to explain it's just nostalgia, and that's often not the case.
I think he was trying to go back to the beginning.
Classic
too.
Games are classics for a reason.
You could definitely tell he was wanting to see what it was about before he he probably got good insight that the newer games were not as good.
Yeah, it's just funny that he played, like, Bozo played 2, 3, and 4. 5 came out, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good. I got these jams. I'm okay."
Yeah, the music was probably definitely.
Turns out that's all you need.
Those ones,
Tony Hawk 1 through 4.
But I would recommend the remake. I think it was really well done, and it embodies it. If you have the time and the gumption to, like, train on a video game, it's super fun.
So one more thing before we get out of here: the music on the remake for 1 and 2, is it updated?
I mean, it's a lot of the original songs. I'd need to see. There's definitely stuff that I don't remember in there. I was hearing, like, Anthrax and stuff on there.
But is it time like adjacent to the music that was on there previously?
Yeah.
So they didn't just add like new music from 2020 onto it.
No. It's definitely got the original songs on it, and then there are some newer bands that got added onto it for sure, but it's mainly like Tribe Called Quest and stuff that you'd expect from back then. The stuff that they added that I remember hearing in it are bands that I genuinely like now that are making new music, like Destroy Boys and Viagra Boys. Like there are bands on there that are making like cool punk in the same vein of what was happening.
Yeah, they're trying
then.
they have that sound.
It's curated. I'll say it's curated well, and it's not that they're just throwing Nickelback on there or Imagine Dragons or whatever it is. Like they didn't just like take the pop rock hits of today and throw them on.
Does Nickelback still make music?
Of course they do. Nickelback has had a renaissance. Dude, Creed's back. What are you talking about? It's all coming around. 20-year cycle for everything, and it comes back around. So Creed's
including Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
So Creed's like a 30-year cycle. I don't know.
Human Clay, 1999.
Well,
My Own Prison, 97.
My Own Prison, 95, wasn't it?
I'm gonna say it's 97, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 95. So maybe that is about a 30-year cycle, but
yeah, those guys are
things
old
come
now.
back around. Yeah.
Do they still have Scott Stapp, or has he been?
He is. He's back.
Exiled.
He's back in action. There's a cruise, John. You can go on the Creed cruise.
Oh gosh, no, I'm good. Anything past My Own Prison is not like my ideal stuff.
So I'm looking at it here. So Machine Gun Kelly's on there, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's a Tribe Called Quest and Real Big Fish and all the kind of stuff that you'd want to have.
This almost made me lose my water.
What? Machine Gun Kelly?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's fine. He's cool. He's a cool guy.
Is.
Yeah. Man, dude, Guerrilla Radio by Rage Against the Machine. Power Man 5000, When Worlds Collide. Bad Religion.
Those were all on the original games.
Yep, Tony Hawk 2. So Tony Hawk 2 had Anthrax, Bad Religion, Lagwagon, Millencolin, like all the, Naughty by Nature, all that stuff.
I think Tony Hawk 3, which would have been a 2002?
Yeah, don't even with me with Tony Hawk 3. It's so good.
2001. That had like CKY and
it did. Exhibit, Rollins Band.
Yep.
Ramones,
had a bunch of good ones on it.
Yeah, there's a band on there called Body Jar. So Nitro Records obviously had an in there because they've got like 3 or 4 artists on that soundtrack. But there's a band called Body Jar that, dude, that was like one of the first things I bought on Amazon. Like, it was back in the day when you like buying things on the internet felt weird, but like I couldn't find these bands. Like I bought my
back when Amazon was a bookstore still.
Basically, it was books and music. Like I would buy my CDs from Borders, or The Wall was like a CD chain by me. And I would go in there and I'd ask for this music, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So I had to find it on the internet.
Go in the dark web.
I bought these CDs off the internet. It's pretty cool.
All right, I think we've got to wrap Tony Hawk up. I think this episode is getting there.
Yeah.
Any closing comments?
Is Shannon going to play a Tony Hawk game? That's the question now. Shannon doesn't even have time to play video games in general. How's he going to play a Tony Hawk game?
He can't even get a Star Wars Dad's episode in.
He's going to drop Unicorn Overlord and immediately play every Tony Hawk
You're going to get 1 and 2 remake tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
it's on the list. It's cheap enough, I think. It's probably like $20
I'm sure
by
it's
now.
Pretty cheap, yeah.
It might be easier to try to figure out the controls on the Switch than the 64. Possibly.
It'll
it
probably
might
be at least
easier to learn how to actually skateboard.
Well, that's
you could do that. We should get you a longboard, and you can just cruise your neighborhood.
That would be something to see.
Yeah.
Make sure you video it.
Please do. For posterity.
All right, Sam, take us out.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you're welcome to jump into our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. And you can find everything on the website, retrologic.games. That's all for now. Have a good night.
Bye now.